Spoilers for pretty much everything in Deltarune and Undertale and Kirby's Adventure ahead. I would really appreciate you watching part 1, but it's not strictly necessary to understand this part at all, so don't worry. Subsection A. To purify it, don't you need a cat? We have always known the pure crystal since day one as the shadow purified by the cat. Now you've seen the title and the thumbnail, you know what I'm about to propose, but I want to lead off with I don't think the description is a tricky, Tony, misleading moment. I honestly just think that it was put in the game to tease the importance of cats and is deliberately vague. Even in Chapter 2, Friend and Catty were both in the game and had ties to the occult, beyond Sham, of course. In all likelihood, the pure crystal is just Sham combining all 5 crystals into a badass mega crystal that maybe gives us like a glowing light that shatters darkness or something like that. I talked in part 1 of this series about how the opposite of a lost dream is a nightmare. Instead of a dream that you long to return to, a nightmare is a dream that you run from, that you don't ever want to go back to. Instead of something that makes you sad that you can't have it, it's something that is tantalizingly unwantable. But I'd like to link another idea that I had together with this one. It is my opinion that the pure crystal can only be made by fulfilling a dream that has previously been lost. So if a found dream can be compared to nightmares, how do you do that? Well, to me, it's like this. The desire of a lost dream remains to see it fulfilled. The desire of a nightmare is to escape it completely. So I think a pure crystal, if turned into a weapon, would be capable of neutralizing and destroying beings made out of shadow. So how does this relate to Pink? Well, I want you to think about it. Jevel's shadow crystal is probably someone's lost dream of being good at cards, and the only Lightner with cards as a weirdly big part of their backstory is Chris, and Chris is specifically ass at cards. Spamton's shadow crystal is from Metaton's ghost's lost dream of a new body, and that is a dream that still has not been anywhere close to fulfilled. The Knights is actually something that I talk a little bit about in my previous video. I think that they're made out of both nightmares, being encased within Dessa's nightmare that she describes in the Unused Chapter 3 dialogue, and lost dreams of everyone finding Dess. I will recap and expand on my proposed backstory for the Knight in the next subsection. Gerson's lost dream is either his own or his son's, but it is most likely to see his story completed or to see his son become a great writer. In either case, neither of these has happened yet, and neither can happen until at least a few months or years after Deltarune. You don't just become a great writer when you just started. So basically, none of these dreams have been fulfilled. But Pink, well, her dream was resting with her body as soon as she was in the Dark World, no? So the dream was that body. And she got it. Pink's dream has been fulfilled because Pink gets to come back to Castletown and be another parental figure to Lancer, maybe. She has her perfect trans cat girl body that she always wanted, and she's having a blast with it. So I really think that she does have it in her to purify a crystal. But I also think that that power is with the Darkener body, the one who knows of Friend and all of that. My last video goes into my theory about Friend, but to summarize it, I think that the image Friend cats are the manifestation of the darkest, most toxic parts of our imagination that build the imagined self and project our dreams onto imaginary characters in our mind. They swarm around a shadow crystal and do everything they can to protect the lost dream from becoming found or purified because the lost dream is their shiny, coveted item. They perform this guard role as a service to Eram, who might be Gaster but I think is a different character, in exchange for Eram priming victims of the cats to feed them the flesh of the broken, but more importantly, the flesh of the healing, who are really the most powerful of all of us. I believe the eggs are representative of the steps that you have to take before starting to heal from the psychic damage dealt by an obsession with a previously lost dream. But the closer you are to healing, the harder the cats will try to fight you and keep you from recovering. The eggs are acquired largely through trial and error and persistence, just like retrying a fight over and over, which is represented in the Eram fight by the friend cats that Eram uses in their fight, the reason that I think Eram is the cat owner, dropping healing items on defeat if you keep retrying. The retries are that trial and error, that continual practice to get better for yourself, to overcome your nightmares, and to move on from your lost dreams. So one day you can find them again or allow them to become nothing but a blip in the back of your mind, stripped of any power you once let it have over you. Many people have a very strong, very lost dream of finding Des. These people's minds are swarming with cats, eating them from the inside out and not letting them forget, not letting them move on. This keeps the shadow crystals that form part of the night permanently lost. All of this to say, I propose that pink is a very opposite force. Also a pink and yellow cat, but one with white in her color scheme rather than black, and one predicated on a found dream, devoted to a specific goal, and completely a unit with a lightener, acting as a host for that lightener, rather than the lightener acting as a host for the evil, nasty friend cats. I believe that Mew Mew, which is what I call Pink's body, is immensely powerful due partially to this shared cat connection. Her bomb attack, for example, she shares in common with Eram, despite neither form of Maddie ever having had a bomb attack in Undertale. I fully think that the bombs are tied to cats, such as the Michael bomb and the Kiki bombs, which are also directly tied to cats in Deltarune. In fact, the only other bombs I can think of are used by Jevil, Chaos Bomb, and Spampton, which is, the Metaton bombs, who obviously have ties to Sham and Friend, respectively, which are both cats. So I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that the cat power set involves bombs. And so yes, the bomb attack is super hard for a lore reason. And we're gonna get more super hard bomb attacks in Chapter 6. Mew Mew has so much knowledge about the world. She knows that Chris needs a shadow crystal for some reason, and she knows all about Friend and the cat owner. I believe that with this knowledge of these pretty meta-narrative relevant ideas, and with her noticing little things like Chris's cat bite on their hand, she will know when we have been bad little days. I believe that Mew Mew will realize when we are on an aborted weird route, and she will be mortified that something like this is happening. But she will tell Chris about something secret, something powerful that could allow them to break free, the pure crystal. And so she will take back the crystal she gave to us, similar to how Sham tends to take our crystals, and give it back in its true form, purified by Mew Mew, the embodiment of a found dream. But that's something we'll have to get into in a bit because that's the main idea I have for the twisted route, and it kind of hinges on understanding the night. Subsection B, the night makes perfect sense. The Knight was a character that greatly confused me until this recent lore drop. To me, Des was a character who was very absorbed in her dreams of going to bigger, better places, putting on concerts that never happened, materializing something out of her prodigious musical talent. She wanted more than anything to be a star, but she just couldn't have it. It haunted her. Her brain was full of evil, nasty, horrible cats, nibbling away at her nerves and making her distant and compelling her towards scary things. She tried so hard to run away from those cats that she discovered dark worlds. The cats have a dual purpose, though. Not only to keep people from lost dreams, but to guide them towards nightmares, which are embodied by their owner, Eram. Des went to the bottom of town, accompanied by Chris, following the path the cats told her to, and using codes that she and Chris had acquired from their respective parents in secret, they decided to enact this crazy plan. The plan to make a dark fountain. It didn't seem real, it didn't seem possible, but Des took a sharpened baseball bat, okay, this is just like a fanfiction part, it could have been any sharp object, and stabbed into the earth, creating the shelter dark world, at which the initial incident occurred. In this world, Des's recurring nightmare of complete isolation described in Chapter 3 was made material. That which sees over nightmares, Eram, who I will from here refer to as the owner, made a deal with Des. The owner could remove her from the relentless pursuit of the cats, but in order to do so, she must fall into a darker, yet darker dream. The scary had become alluring. The cries of the cats had grown too loud. The real world had become unbearable. And so Des took the deal. So essentially, it's the very common through line in this game of suicide ideation. Des essentially went into the woods with the help of Chris and killed herself. It's a bit of a reversal of the Kara and Asriel storyline. Chris likely tried to dissuade this. And to be clear, I mean mostly like a textual and narrative suicide. I don't think that she literally killed herself or anything. That would kind of just be a game that I won't spoil actually. This encounter led to the creation of the Knight, born of Des's will, the darkest parts of herself. The parts of herself that were too cool. The parts that embody the poisonous irony described in Chapter 4 by Gerson. The knight was born early out of defiance of the prophecy, with the express goal of destroying the whimsical and earnestly developed parts of the world, the Lord of Screens, the Flower Man. The knight was also given purpose to feed more people to the nightmares. That's why it's kidnapping people. Where the cats lure people in, once a knight is created, it becomes a worker for the owner of nightmares. While the Des who once dreamt sleepwalks through a nightmare in the code, the Des who now is powerful and has control over her life is happy and has absolutely no qualms with doing the dirty work of the being that made her whole. To elaborate a tad on the dialogue in the code, I do believe that the scratching she is hearing is from image friend cats, and I also think that she is in fact singing Don't Forget from the code. I don't think that every single line of it is necessary to analyze outside of just the chapter 3.1 very clearly showing what she's experiencing is a nightmare. But of course, what she has become is not truly good. It is extremely bad. It's terrible. It's terrible, Chris. The cats got her. So yes, this is my Death Knight theory. The body she is made of is her nightmare crystallized as black shards. Black shards are the opposite of shadow crystals. Think about it. Completely transparent, invisible glass as compared to solid, black, hard, opaque glass. Seemingly useless or at least confusing to use item as compared to the extremely immediately powerful weapon. They are opposites, but they go hand in hand. The knight drops a shadow crystal because the owner is tending to the lost dreams of everybody who wants to find Des, completely aware that it won't happen, because the Des they want to find isn't there anymore. She is gone. She is in the code, whatever that means. That is why finding the knight isn't finding Des. And yet, I believe that the owner has spoken to Chris and Carol as well, struck some sort of deal, offered to bring back Des. I don't quite know the specifics, but this is what I'm thinking of for the character motivation of Carol and Chris for now. It will likely be its own video one day. Also, I believe that Chris and the other members of the Roaring group chat have repeatedly sealed and reopened the Shelter Dark World. Well, that is to say the other members have reopened it. I think Chris is the only one who can seal it, which is the reason it remains a conspiracy theory to most people. You can go check, and it's just like a kind of messy bunker, and that's about it. But also another clarification, I think the creation of the knight also led to the creation of the black shards. Like, those are shards of her nightmare, and those were at the crime scene because, like, they needed those to make her, and some of them fell off, basically. My explanation for why the knight hasn't been able to have any effect in the time between its creation and now is that it would go against the prophecy. It was created early in order to defy the prophecy by force of the owner, which has ties to the tale of hell through friend, which is the tale that must not be followed. And essentially, I think that making the knight early was an attempt to defy and manipulate the prophecy. You know, the knight is only supposed to appear alongside the heroes, but it has been unable to do this because it is only actively enabled by Chris. I do believe that the knight is unable to exist in the light world for an extended period of time, which is why they haven't shown themselves yet. I believe their body has to be actively, continually tended to ensure the lost dreams and nightmares stay strong and stay together, as the knight is without a part of essentially their soul. I think that defying the prophecy is completely impossible, and that's why the knight has been essentially unable to do anything until at least the beginning of Deltarune. But the prophecy is somewhat beyond the scope of this video, so let's move on. Subsection C, the actual twisted root in question. So now we have finally discussed enough for me to talk about the path which I think the twisted root is going to take. Essentially, I believe that on an aborted weird root save in Chapter 6, that was aborted in Chapter 5 to be clear, Mew Mew is going to see the thorn wounds on Noelle's hand, say something spooky and weird to Chris with several Mews included, and then turn the shadow crystal we gave her into a pure crystal. I think that we have to talk to Pink before we talk to Sham, or Sham will take our crystal and give us whatever the normal crystal reward is. I also think that Sham will have unique dialogue that's like, what did you do? Why don't you have the 5th crystal, basically? But yeah. I personally think that it's an armor, by the way, that we're going to get from Sham for getting all the crystals normally, or maybe that the pure crystal will be able to be turned into the sky mantle if we don't turn it into the twisted sword, and maybe those will both be individually important in different ways to the aborted weird root. but that doesn't really matter that much. Like, the specifics don't matter. The main thing that matters is that Pink purifies the crystal. I believe that the owner is the final boss of Chapter 6, and that by doing the Shadow Crystal and Egg quests, we'll unlock a different ending to that fight on the normal route, and I think on the aborted weird route, it'll essentially be entirely the same throughout Chapter 6, but we'll have a notable branch at the end if we got the pure crystal from Pink. This crystal will allow us to finally use the thorn ring to craft the twisted sword, and with this weapon, made of pure dreams, we will kill the owner, freeing Des from her nightmare. Yay, happy ending! Or is it? One of my favorite games is Kirby's Adventure. In this game, the main villain is named Nightmare. Now, of course, the ERAM boss is certainly taken from Nightmares in Link's Awakening, but Toby actually has a remix of a Kirby's Adventure song made from memory on his Tumblr, so bear with me here. The main plot of Kirby's Adventure is that everybody has lost the ability to dream, because the seeming villain of the game, King Dedede, has sealed the Fountain of Dreams in order to prevent Nightmare from infecting people's dreams with nightmares. Kirby goes and releases Nightmare, and then seemingly kills him, but actually doesn't because he returns in Kirby Air Riders, and either way, Kirby bosses kind of never stay dead. Anyway, the main point I'm getting at is that this character is demonstrating that the destruction of nightmares means the destruction of dreams, and doing so in a game we know for a fact has had a notable influence on Toby, but in a way that's kind of one note and doesn't fully explore the idea. That is to say, I think that Toby is directly inspired or not, exploring a very similar idea, and that the full destruction of the owner won't just lead to Des being saved and free and all, it will kill her completely. We need our dreams, and we need our nightmares too. This is a story about balance, and this is a character who has found shared comfort and bonding over horror. This is a person who is not truly complete without the messy parts of herself. Yes, she has let that consume her, left the earnest and kind and imaginative parts of her to rot in darkness, but destroying her nightmares is tantamount to destroying her. Furthermore, if the owner is truly killed, what will become of the Chapter 7 Shelter Dark World? The cats will be directionless. The path will be seemingly made much easier. But something is just wrong. Chris no longer has any way of getting what they wanted out of the deal with the owner. And so if their soul was made to be a vessel for another being puppeting them around, then what will they do now that the deal is off? What will they do now that you've gone and killed the one thing that could bring back Des? Well, it's hard to say. I'm a person who believes that the trance effect on the Twisted Sword is not trance down, because the down is the default ability icon in the code. I think that it's just a trance effect that wasn't fully implemented. And so I believe that Chris will not be able to throw us out anymore once we've locked into the Twisted Sword ending. But what is actually going to happen in Chapter 7 is very hard to say. I don't know what to expect, but expect something really horrifying and traumatizing. And maybe like a little bit like Omori. I'm not entirely sure. Subsection D, horrible lyrics analysis from somebody who's supposed to know about this stuff. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the lyrics of Cutie Mew Mew Magic for why this character is tied so heavily into the aborted weird route. Basically, this can be summarized with 3 lines. It's fine to get all fired up in hell, it's fine to kiss in heaven, and she is saving the day. Getting fired up in hell, that's the red glow in the eyes, that's enjoying the destruction, that's the Chapter 2 weird route. Kissing in heaven, that's the Chapter 5 lake scene. These are the events of the weird route. These are the things Chris must do before properly aborting in Chapter 5. And then Mew Mew is there to save the day. She's there to set us back on the right path, to destroy the owner of the nightmares. What Mew Mew doesn't know is just how bad things are, how much worse things will get. She's a little clueless, I forgot my lunch, you know. My favorite line in this song is, "But my dreaming heart is squeezing tight, have determination." She really cares about Chris, and she really cares about the world, and she really is trying to save the world and trying to make a safe world for the dreams in her heart and the heart of the Lightners who love her. She is the opposite of Spamton. Spamton took from Chris and took from Metaton in order to be stronger, and on the weird route gave us the Thorn Ring to manipulate his way into power. Pink has many parallels to Spamton, with themes of control and identity and even the same green strings, plus a bunch of lyrics that are super vague and hard to understand in her theme in a soundtrack that usually has no lyrics. and the same element too. Mew Mew is giving us the second half of the Twisted Sword, in a parallel to Spamton in Chapter 2 giving us the first half. She has faith in Chris's determination, and she truly believes with her help we will be able to save the day. Unfortunately, she is wrong. She knows so much, but she can't know everything. Yeah, I'm the single biggest Pink fangirl of all time, but even I gotta admit that her narrative relevance probably will only extend this far. Very important to this alternate ending, in the same way Spamton was in Chapter 2, but ultimately she will have been wrong, and she will accidentally contribute to a very bad ending. Subsection E, addressing the elephant. A common comment that I got was basically asking about the connections between Noelle and Friend. So yes, in the Spamton Sweepstakes ARG, Noelle talks about her Cat Petters RPG game and how it has these creepy, rare cats, and sometimes Friend appears. Also, in an actual mainline Cat Petters game, Noelle has an egg that seemingly represents the eggs in Deltarune. So here's the best I got at explaining these connections. The Cat Petters RPG is a ripoff of Dragon Blazers, so it should follow Deltarune to some extent. This weird evil cat that is Friend exists in the world of Deltarune that is essentially a ripoff of the prophecy, see ripoff theory. Noelle was able to find Friend cats because she is essentially a magnet for secrets and narrative relevance. She can equip the Twisted Sword. She will help us find a way to destroy ERAM on the Twisted Route, if you ask me. I think there's a ton to be said about Noelle in this regard, but I do want to make a full video about her. The egg, to me, being from the original Cat Petter series, is showing that this is an active effort and actually against the cruel and sometimes unforgiving nature of this world to actively work towards happiness and healing. And the egg leaves due to happiness because it has been tended to and aided in healing, so it's completed its purpose. It's really nice. I honestly think that now that I have this egg theory, that this weird thing from the ARG is just completely paid off for me now. The other thing is burning out the eyes of the Icy pizza box, and ERAM's theme being burning eyes. So Noelle thinks Icy is an evil cryptid, and in Undertale there's a fun value event where there's a nightmare version of Icy. Basically, I think Noelle has nightmares about Icy, and Noelle is the most important character in the game, so the owner has heavy ties to Icy and Noelle's fear of him. Noelle's whole no one else matters thing is definitely going to be relevant, and even when she's not there, I truthfully think everything in this game is for her. People talk about Susie being the main character and like she's the visual novel protagonist, but actually the two main routes of this game could be accurately described as the Suzel route and the Krizel route. Noelle is the main character and we just only briefly get to interface with her. It honestly feels like we are being deliberately kept from her. I think out of everyone that Noelle has the most experience with nightmares. She has the most attachment to horror. She is the most capable of facing nightmares. But you know something else? She is the least capable of fulfilling her dreams at the moment. But with Susie, that all might be changing. And by the way, Suzel is perfect, and they are perfect for each other, and I love them so much, and I might actually have to make a video on that too. I have so many ideas, you guys. Okay, recap time. Let's break this down into 3 digestible points of what this theory is actually getting at. Mew Mew will purify the Shadow Crystal in Chapter 6 on an aborted weird route, giving us access to the Twisted Route through the Twisted Sword. Nightmares and dreams exist in a yin and yang, and throwing them out of balance by destroying the owner of the cats, who is the embodiment of nightmares, will also mean killing Des, who is currently almost entirely made up of her nightmares. Noelle is the only Deltarune character that matters, and every single one of these things is directly related to her for some reason. She will be the key to combating nightmares on both the normal and twisted routes, but on the twisted route, we might have a bit of a bad time. That is essentially what the Twisted Purification theory is. I highly recommend watching the first video if you haven't. These two videos really do go hand in hand and enhance each other in my opinion. Thank you so much for watching, and please like, subscribe, leave a comment for me to respond to very enthusiastically. You know, if you want to, if you think the video deserves it. Thank you all so much. Okay, so my last video did well. Very well. I'm going to talk about this channel and how astonished I am for just a minute, but you can click off if all that mattered was my theory. It is completely fine and it won't hurt my feelings if you click off. Okay, so I redid my channel and uploaded a short video about a silly little theory that I had, and it pleased me very much with its success, getting around 1,000 views and a lot of sweet comments, right? So I wanted to talk about Pink, my favorite character, but then Toby decides to drop this huge Pink lore drop, and I think I just have an epiphany, and I make a mad dash to create and upload a video about Pink, Friend, ERAM, and the Knight. And it was a little messy, but I expressed some of my strongest thoughts about the game, and it did amazing. Like, so amazing that I actually have half of the monetization requirements from YouTube off of that one video alone. So I will continue doing this primarily for fun, and the content I've been making will not change at all, other than I might not make shorts of all my videos, but I don't think anybody really cares. I did literally nothing algorithm based on my previous video, and yet it still did rather well, so I'm just gonna stick to that. Write honestly, speak about characters and ideas that I love, and try to write as emotionally and truthfully as I can. If I continue to do well, I will probably monetize to help me pay for college, but I absolutely will not start algorithm baiting all of a sudden. If anything, I'll just start asking people to hype the video. Anyways, thank you so much for sticking with me, and thank you for all the sweet comments and nice little things about my voice and my style. I had a great time making this, as I always do with these videos. Thank you so much. You can look at my cat while I talk about this. So, I basically got a comment on my last video where someone was like, Pink isn't going to be in Castletown in Chapter 6 because she says, I'm not going to stick around, I need some time for myself. And I think that's a valid interpretation of that. But for me personally, I think that it just means I'm not going to stick around the flower shop. Because she did leave the flower shop, so she already didn't stick around, you know? I think in Deltarune, time is like so inflated. I think tomorrow she is going to be in the flower shop. But you can take it up with my cat if you disagree. No, it's totally valid either way. I just read it differently than that person did. Both are equally valid readings, and they actually said like a really funny situation for what would happen if if Pink shows up in Chapter 7 to just like a ruined Castletown. And I think that I would kind of like either version equally, but you know, we'll see when we get there. Imagine I'm right. Like, that'd be crazy, right?